The new patch in Last Epoch lacks focus, adds poorly designed dungeons and provides more boring and tedious mechanics to a game that isn't particularly known for its enticing endgame to begin with. This is concerning and this video explains why. And if you like Last Epoch opinion videos, consider subscribing. I'm making build guides and other content around this game too. This video may come across as fairly negative, and that is because I am fairly negative with the direction taken here. There could be good reasons for this direction, like, I don't know, waiting for multiplayer, but I feel the development efforts could and should be spent elsewhere, instead of creating random, uninteresting, disjointed dungeons. So here's the problem. Let's just start at the start, why don't we? The start is that you need a key to access the two new dungeons in patch 0.8.5, just like you need a key for the previous Temporal Sanctum. You could debate the point of such a key, but I'm not going to do that. Fact is, you need one, and fact is, they are super rare. These things just don't drop at all. The key drop rate is absolutely atrocious. It is funny to see that the people saying that drop rates are fine are the people with optimized builds farming 300 corruption. That is not normal. That is not what most people do. That is not what I do either. I just play regular and empowered timelines in the monolith with 100 corruption, maybe a little bit more, just like your average Joe. And I could be well above average even, making drop rates for other players even worse. In the first 17 hours of the patch, I didn't find a single key for the Soulfire Bastion. It is completely ridiculous. I'm aware that a hotfix now makes timeline bosses drop keys, but it only seems to work at high corruption, because the timeline bosses I am killing and the Oribisses that I am killing, they still don't drop any keys, or hardly any keys. That is at just 100 to 150 corruption. It is extremely rare still to receive a key from a timeline boss at this stage. Let's assume though you got a key. That means we can now go to the dungeon, right? Well, you can do one tier of the dungeon. To get to the rewarding tier 3 or tier 4, assuming you can complete that, you need more keys. But okay, we go into the dungeon. What are we getting? Let's start with the positives, because there are positives. The new dungeon mechanic, both the Ember and the Shield, they're quite fun to use. The dungeons also do a good job, I feel, teaching the player how to use these mechanics, because you need them later down the line to kill the bosses. I am neutral about the boss fights, by the way. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just neutral for me. Another positive, in the Soulfire Bastion at least, is that the doors that you pick, the modifiers, are actually impacting the soul gambling at the end. That is a nice mechanic overall. Those are all the positives. Now let's look at the negatives, and they are numerous, unfortunately. Once you're inside of either the Lightless Arbor or the Soulfire Bastion, the dungeons are way too large to be fun. It takes ages to complete. It has a bunch of annoying dead ends, which adds very little value apart from honing the RNG skills of the devs, and the rewards are utterly lacking. I'm not saying you can't get good rewards, because you clearly can. I'm saying that the way of achieving those rewards is poorly designed, and the only fun thing is the reward itself, which is often complete RNG as well, something that clearly doesn't help. The gameplay in the dungeons or before the dungeons is not rewarding at all. It feels like a chore, it is tedious, it is boring, and once again it is simply poorly designed. The Lightless Arbor has a vault at the end, right? Which is fun in theory, but did anyone playtest this? I memed about this in the previous video that we should complain about the prices, but I was definitely right. It is all way too expensive. How much gold do the devs think we have? I'm playing quite a bit and I have 6 million. McFluffin has 9 million. He streams the game full time. Do you have any idea how long it takes to farm 1 million gold in Last Epoch? It takes ages, guys. I played a solo self-found character for 22 hours from scratch and I had 1.1 million. And you can easily spend that money in the Lightless Arbor in a single run, get complete RNG rewards, and then what? You need to spend another 15 hours for your next million gold farming in endgame? A gold sink is a good idea, but the pricing on this is ridiculous for your average Joe player, which is me. Yeah, I play a lot, but not the super endgame, not with crazy optimized builds. I just play like a filthy casual, as most of us do, and I'm telling you, this is not okay. It's just not good. Ironically, the Lightless Arbor is much better than the Soulfire Bastion. Everything I just told you applies to this dungeon too, but it is way worse. This dungeon is set up in such a way that you need to farm Ember Souls to spend at the end of the dungeon. You get these souls by simply killing enemies. Once again, this dungeon is massive, which means you need to ideally clear 2 entire floors of this humongous dungeon to kill everyone, which takes like 10 minutes per floor, right? On your average Joe build. And then you can gamble your souls at the end. Skipping parts of the floor simply feels bad because you know you're missing out on souls. So why not make these dungeons 4 times smaller and give me 4 times the number of Ember Souls? That would feel so much better. But ultimately, in its current form, the Soulfire Bastion is a tedious dungeon to complete with total RNG rewards, as you have no idea which items you'll be getting from the Soul Gambler, apart from the type of reward, even a guaranteed sealed affix, which is really strong. It can be a poor proposition if they roll it on a bad base item. It's not deterministic enough to be rewarding and to put the players through 20 minutes of chores, or much longer if you count the time to farm the keys. And for comparison, and so you know I don't hate dungeons in general or something, I feel there is such a stark contrast with the Temporal Sanctum, which has a decent key drop rate. It doesn't take too long. The enemies along the way tend to drop a good number of exalted items, and it has a clear goal at the end that is achievable and offers a gameplay loop that you can enjoy regularly. You farm the key, you farm a unique with legendary potential, you craft an exalt to put in the cache, and you create your legendary. It is still RNG to some extent, but it is fun, it is achievable, it progresses your character, and it is fairly deterministic overall. More importantly, every step leading you to this reward is fun or exciting, from dropping a unique with good legendary potential, to quickly running the dungeon, to the great boss fight, to the small gamble at the end. It is as well designed as it could have, so I was very hopeful for these 2 new dungeons, and with that extremely disappointed in how they have been released. There is a far bigger problem though, in my opinion, with these new dungeons, and that is the whole philosophy behind them. The idea of these dungeons is that they can be used for your second character or your alts or twinks, if you will, to quickly skip the campaign, or parts of it. They are campaign skips, but even in that capacity they don't work. They're way too hard to complete at the intended level, first of all, and they don't reward you with skill points and idle slots, meaning you will have to do the campaign quests anyway to get those rewards. Ironically, it is much faster to skip the dungeons that skip the campaign than actually doing them. Also, I personally don't see why campaign skips are even a focus. With some leveling gear, you can get to the monolith with a fresh character in 4 to 5 hours. Yeah, it's boring, sure, but it's not a massive time investment, especially because most of the time after that you will be doing the monolith, because then you reach endgame. That is where the devs need to put in the work, because the endgame is stale and repetitive and it really longs for additional things for us to do. Like, you know, dungeons integrated maybe into the monolith. Just a suggestion to the devs. Hello, are you listening? I know they're listening, by the way, they do watch these videos. Honestly, I don't understand why these dungeons aren't simply integrated in the Monolith of Fate as a random island you can randomly encounter, or maybe that you can force spawn with a key or something, or a monolith mechanic. I'll leave it up to the devs to find a cool solution, but why is this whole dungeon system, which is clearly not working as enticing additional content as I just showed you, offered to the players in a completely separate manner? Why? It just doesn't make any sense. Are they revamping the monolith maybe once more and actually randomizing it? The devs stated in a livestream some time ago that this was unlikely to happen before the game launch, if at all. And even if they are, adding this as a random echo should be fairly easy, you would imagine. Is multiplayer the issue here somehow? But still, if you can make them separate, surely you can put them on a separate echo. It's not like people are gonna call you out because the lore doesn't add up or something. Why is campaign skipping prioritized over making endgame more interesting? Who wants this? I'm sure there are some forum posts, and I'm not saying the campaign is fine or anything. I mean, sure, I would enjoy an alternative leveling mode, but if we were to get a poll as the community asking us like, hey guys, we got a new gameplay system, would you want us, option 1, to incorporate it in the campaign as a game skip, or would you want us, option 2, to put it in the monolith to make endgame more interesting? Do you really think a lot of people pick option 1? Of course not. I'm not delusional, am I? Let me know in the comments. Now, there may be technical reasons or other reasons as to why the devs decided this is not the way currently, but I feel then the focus should be to remove those reasons, because there is no excuse for this in my opinion. Which brings me to the final point, the conclusion, if you will. For whatever reason, the devs decided that the dungeons should be a separate system from the monolith. I don't get this, because the devs also stated that the monolith is the main endgame system. Whatever the case may be for this deviation of their own vision, fact remains that they are not making the monolith more interesting and instead focus on random dungeons on the side which aren't even properly implemented in pretty much all aspects. This is concerning because it indicates to me that apparently there isn't some sort of monolith first strategy in place, meaning that any new gameplay mechanic should be incorporated in the monolith first, because that is where the majority of the players are going to spend their time if they play Last Epoch for more than, let's say, 8 hours. This is concerning because this means that the monolith may not get any more interesting before the game launches, which would be a terrible mistake. Because after spending 100 to 200 hours or so in there, and I'm being generous I feel, you see how static and boring the monolith really is. Any variation in that static content is extremely appreciated and will make it way less noticeable that the echoes are super repetitive, but unfortunately, somehow, this is not happening. It feels like the devs are simply focusing on the wrong features, unnecessarily increasing the scope of the game while neglecting the real issues at hand. Not a great feeling, but it is my primary conclusion after playing patch 0.8.5 for an entire week pretty much full time. And don't even get me started about this new arena mode, holy moly. But that's it, this is more of a feedback video than anything else. Let me know your feedback in the comments or by liking or disliking the video. Thanks for watching and for making it to the end. See you soon, love you all, bye bye.